prior, and that made it that much easier to pick out which magazine or which newspaper you were getting. With Facebook, you know, it's in a lot of cases it's much more deceptive as to what kind of news that you're getting or what kind of article you're reading. And so again, I would go back to where it goes back to the listener, or the reader. You have to be conscious of or aware of where are you getting your news and where does this come from. So going back to, like you said earlier, primary sources and of that nature. So
well, let me add my 2 cents too, because back in the 70s when I was a working journalist, you only had 4 sources, 4 television stations.
Right.
You had limited access to, you had to go to the library to read an out-of-town newspaper. And I think, well, also, Watergate appeared, so journalists got a good pat on the back then. We produced the Pentagon Papers, got a big pat on the back. Walter Cronkite was the most trusted man in America, a TV newscaster. You won't get any of that because of all this proliferation now, all this information. We don't know what's true and what's not true anymore. It's just all dulled down.
The way they do television news nowadays is so much different. I mean, you don't have normally most, like Walter Cronkite, just reading the news. You've got analysis and spin from every different angle. And there's readers, if they're not media, or watchers, if they're not media literate, in terms of getting educated on the issues, that look at that and have a hard time comprehending or deciding between what is fake news and what is actual real news, instead of someone just reading the what, when, where, why.
Dan, let's piggyback on something that Nathan had said. It depends on where you get this. It depends what sources you get your news from. Cable news. Cable news, in my opinion, is probably the biggest opinion driver right now. I don't know if that's accurate, but it feels like that's the biggest opinion driver. And when you look at fake news, cable news ratings, it's not close. Fox News destroys. MSNBC destroys. Those 2 channels do the best of the 3 major cable news networks.
Yes.
CNN brings in a ridiculous 3rd.
Right.
Now those 2 channels, just in case you're not aware, Fox News, very conservative, very pro-Trump. MSNBC, very liberal, very anti-Trump. Not to equate the 2 because they are different in their own ways, but why is CNN bringing up the rear? Why are these 2 channels killing it?
Well, because, okay, and MSNBC was not always, they only really found rating success when they found a partisan voice.
Yes, that's,
I mean, you know,
that's a perfect encapsulation
and
what I'm
and
talking
so,
about.
what I think, you know, one, you're seeing a difference because Fox, MSNBC, CNN, all of those, they do fairly well, you know, I'm going to say fairly accurately in what's called dayside, or what I would call dayside. In other words, before the 7 o'clock hour. For the most part, they tend to be fairly straight news type outlets. And then you go into a TV program. But why? Because it allows people to, you know, all of a sudden I get to tune in and listen to my team's cheerleaders for 4 hours, 5 hours. I get to listen to, you know, it's like basically I get to hear what I expect to hear, what I want to hear, and I don't have to listen to, how to say, any dissenting opinion, because I'm not going to hear it if I'm turning on one of these partisan outlets, which in a lot of respects is a throwback to a much older day. I mean, the idea of a partisan media outlet is not new. You know, what is it? The Arkansas
Democratic Gazette.
The Democrat Gazette in Arkansas was originally a Democrat Party paper. You find newspapers that had Republican in the name, or Democrat in the name, because they were actually organs of a party. So, you know, I mean, this is nothing new. It's just a matter of now anyone with a internet or cable subscription can pretty much get their own reality served up to them.
Rose, how do you fix or negate the impact of fake news in America?
Well, I think this is a pretty good way right here, right? To have an open discussion about the problem and the issue, and we challenge ourselves. You know, each of us challenge each of ourselves. That's a pretty good way to do it. I'm with Steve. The idea of trying to clamp down on the First Amendment makes me very nervous. You know, sometimes that dissenting voice is the cry from the wilderness that we need to hear. Sometimes it's not, but, you know, that's again, where we're supposed to be adults. So I think we have to continue to challenge ourselves, to turn on that critical mindset. But to also be aware that our system does provide some avenues for redress. I mean, we're talking about something that is untrue and it had a harmful effect on someone's reputation, and that was done with malice. You know, there may be a legal remedy. I'm not saying there is or there isn't in a particular case, but I mean, there are some tools already built in our system to help bring that in check.
Rose, so here's why your answer makes me uncomfortable. Your answer makes me uncomfortable because you said, in order to negate the impact of fake news, when we consume news, we just got to police ourselves better, more effectively. Now, we've been trying to do that in food for a generation or six.
Right.
And we don't ban food in America. Instead, well, you know, edible food. We don't ban edible food.
Might be in some areas, but yeah.
There are a couple that mainly what we do is now we arm the consumer. Here's all the calories in your food. And we just police ourselves. If we just inform the consumer, consumers will police themselves and everybody will not be an incredibly obese society. All that's done is it's given us the most obese society mankind has ever seen. So if your solution is, we can solve fake news, we just have to police ourselves better, I have lack of faith in that solution.
Well, I'm not promising you that we would have a glowing 100% turnaround in both the prevalence and the impact of fake news, but we live in a free society. And with that comes a cost in terms of being adults ourselves.
Steve, thank you. Steve, we do live in a free society. We have a free society, we have the right to bear arms. And that right to bear arms also makes it really easy for people to get hurt, as we unfortunately know too well this week. We also live in a free society with a free press, meaning you can print, go nuts.
Whatever you want.
We are being hurt that way too, are we not? What we need to do is police ourselves better.
Yeah.
It makes sense and it's a constitutional answer. It makes me very skeptical that that's a solution.
Well, who would you rather police? The question is, do you want to police it yourself, or do you want to hand it over to someone else to police it for you? I don't buy the whole calories on a billboard is making us fatter. What's making us fatter is putting that food in our mouths. They don't even consider what the calories are. The ones that are eating and eating and eating. I just think that we need to just police ourselves better and just do due diligence of where you're getting your information from. Don't go to Breitbart for all of your information. You might want to go to Breitbart, but also go to the New York Times or go to the Washington Post.
Are you telling Breitbart readers they need to go to other sites, not just Breitbart?
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think that will go over?
I don't care. All I know is that they have that opportunity. And I don't want to take that opportunity away from them by saying, well, the government says you've got to read 3 liberal and 3 conservative newspapers a day, and you've got to watch 2 hours of Fox and 2 hours of CNN or 2 hours of MSNBC. I don't want government in my life telling me how I inform myself. I'll take care of that. Thank you.
Dan, let me introduce a proposal which will make government take control of your life. The proposal is the number, this has less to do with speech and more doing with regulating private speech. Here's the proposal. The number 1 place people get news in 2018 is where? If you had to guess.
It's Facebook.
It's social media. The social media companies. You do not have a right to post stuff on social media. The social media company has to allow you to do so. And guess what? The US government can regulate social media. Here's my proposal. We introduce legislation that says if you are posting dubiously informed news or fake news, then the government can regulate these social media companies and prohibit these accounts from flooding our lives with fake incendiary news. Yes or no?
No.
No. Who's going to label it dubious?
Well, and
You got a panel?
Let's not quibble with my adjectives.
A death panel, you could have a dubious panel?
I mean, true. You know,
dubious.
I may.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna say we in many ways, even though these organizations do not act like the press, we must, I think, in a lot of ways, give them some of the same protections that we give the press in freedom of speech. And I may dislike it, because part of the problem, I think part of the problem there is not just the fact that there's dubious students out there, it's the fact that we have such small social networks. Because if you looked at the partisan leaning of the friends and family members that you have on your Facebook feed right now, you will find approximately, as studies have shown, approximately 80% of the people on your feed agree with you. 20% of your feed disagrees with you. Because it's gotten to the point where we have decided which friends and which family that we even want to see on Facebook, we're going to determine by their partisan and ideological affiliations, because we have decided that we have to organize ourselves. But I don't want government stepping in.
Rose, let me defend myself from these slanders. We don't protect the press, same as we protect free speech. We don't. I can call Rose a Nazi, but the Springfield news leader can't do that. That's libel. So we regulate the press more aggressively than we regulate speech, do we not? So if that's the case, what's the problem with saying if you are spreading through your media outlet outlandish truths that are misleading and putting certain people in danger, then you can't print it on these certain social media outlets? What's the problem with that?
Well, the problem begins with your premise. I'm not sure that that's actually the case. I mean, again, if something is false and it's intentionally said, there could be repercussions. The difference we've made in the past is with regard to the subject of which you speak. So not you as the speaker, but the subject. So, you know, if Dan is a public figure, Dan's going to have to take a lot more rubbish, frankly, than, you know, you might as a private figure in terms of being the subject of speech. But, you know, and I'm not pushing any particular news outlet or anything, but again, you know, part of the problem is what we consume. And by the way, I don't necessarily even agree to your analysis about calories being the direct and only cause of weight gain. But nonetheless, you know, maybe we ought to be willing to, again, you know, use our feet, our pocketbook, our minds as consumers. I think we can shop our way to a better anything. And if there's a news source out there that has proven itself true and objective most of the time, and fesses up when they make mistakes, which again, those are hot coals on the heads of people who have to do that. Buy the book, subscribe to good stuff, support this. Let a free society push the cream to the top.
Lisa, straighten this out here. How do you fix or negate the impact fake news has on the American public?
I think government getting involved can be pretty dicey. I think we need more media literacy classes. And so, like, what we're doing right now is great, but what if we rolled it into the curriculum, you know, starting in late elementary school through middle school and high school, just as part of your, like, social studies or required civic classes. You know, you would learn not only about the Constitution and the Founding Fathers, but also about, you know, how do you differentiate fact from opinion, and also a truth from fiction. How do you do, like, basic fact checking, like we talked about earlier, going back to primary documents, primary sources. And also, I think a basic understanding of how reporting works too would be quite helpful. And I'm biased, you know, because I feel like I have a great job and it's a lot of fun, and maybe everybody else would sort of enjoy it as well. But, you know, just in terms of how, you know, what rises to a level of reporting, you know, you can't just interview one person and report it as fact most of the time. And, yeah, just more media literacy, I think, is very important, and, like, incorporate it from a younger age as well. And then number two, I think, I was very sad to see the results of the survey, very sad. And maybe, like,
Can we do one for the news leader specifically?
Maybe, I don't know. But, like, I don't know, I think it's important to read more local news because, like, we don't have the same agendas to push like Fox or MSNBC. We are people who live in your communities. A lot of us grew up in Springfield, I did, and we're invested. You know, we do our jobs because we wanted to make it a better place to live and to help people we care about make better decisions, be more informed. We don't, you know, have these partisan agendas to push.
Can we do one thing real quick? Just real quick. How many subscribe to the News Leader online or print? Raise your hand. How many look at the News Leader online?
How many use the 5 free articles?
That's it. Sorry.
All right, so Nathan, I think Alissa gave an answer that is rooted in more than high-minded ideals. There's a practical solution that she's hinting at, and it's almost, to use another terrible metaphor, it's almost like inoculating somebody against a disease. There was a study conducted about people's resistance to fake news. And what they did to a panel of people was they gave them instructions as to how best to identify instances of false, fake information. And then you had a control group who got no such coaching. And then you gave them a smattering of news stories. And the group, unsurprisingly, that was coached, was able to better identify inaccurate news versus the control group. Now, we can't do that on a national scale, can we? What do we do with this information?
Well, I mean, like the media literacy example, I think educating people is a big part of it. And, you know, we have to apply, especially with, you know, I deal with my experiences with television. So I talk to students about theories that specifically apply to the media, such as agenda setting, which the media doesn't tell us what to think, but it tells us what to think about. So if you watch Fox News, you're going to see coverage of the 24-hour news network of Trump or whatever it is. If you watch CNN, you're going to see coverage of a different topic. So I think quite a bit of it goes back to that media literacy. And, you know, if we're covering it, if we're teaching students this in college, that's great. But we have to start teaching them more and more at a younger age how to be literate, and how to be educated, and do our due diligence.
Is there evidence behind that? Do people with a certain level of education, are they better? Like, are people with master's degrees better than people with bachelor's? And are people with bachelor's degrees better than anybody in the panel who knows the answer here? Better than people with just high school diplomas? Not to, of course, cast aspersions on high school diplomas, but the more educated you are, the better you are at fake news. True or false?
No. If I remember.
False then.
If I remember
No,
the
it's not.
story, it's like you get a little bit better until you get to a college diploma, and then if you go up towards master's, like if you go towards advanced degrees, you actually get worse at it again. I'm not quite sure, but no, because and largely it comes down to, again, something that we talked about, motivator reasoning.
But at least you have the tools, at least you have the knowledge.
Right.
And you choose what to do with that knowledge, or you choose how to use it.
Another true or false question. Steve?
Yeah.
Or anybody? True or false? Fake news is successful because of cognitive dissonance. People don't want to be confronted with information that makes them uncomfortable, so they gravitate even to spurious information that confirms their held beliefs. It's not that fake news is tricking us. It's that we are walking into it ourselves. We are willing participants.
Scratches them in a good spot. It's the kind of thing they want.
You guys are knocking my metaphors. That's terrible.
I know.
I don't want to think about that.
I mean, it really does. It goes back to the people who are yelling, "Lock her up," and CNN sucks, and all that. It plays right to them, and the master of that is sitting in the White House right now. He knows how to pull those strings and hit those chords with his tweets all the time.
To be fair, that goes both ways. Claire McCaskill's running an ad right now that calls Josh Hawley, quote unquote, dangerous. So it goes both ways.
Sure.
No, I don't know if I
But
call
she's
that
not
fake
president of the
news,
United
but that's,
States either.
that's correct. She has, to quote Spider-Man, the president has the greatest power,
Yeah, I mean,
so he
you
has the
got
greatest
Holy Pope,
responsibility.